Hey everyone, I'd like to talk a little bit about the Fabled weapons. Fabled weapons, each of which can be put onto your characters as a special theme in the Soul Shop later on. So, I want to talk about, first of all, the best Fabled weapon, and then work our way down to the worst, and why. Possibly get from this the design tips that can help make these Fabled weapons better, or perhaps better for other classes. And if we can, it would also be cool if we could find out a good way to make Fabled weapons for other classes. So, the first best Fabled weapon is the ballistic bullet with Archer. So the way I would describe this is the Archer is already the strength-based class. They're keeping a distance, and they're firing their shots, and they're just trying to be slower, but more destructive. Ballistic Archer leverages that to the extreme. You go from just an Archer to just a powerhouse if you can manage to pull it off. If you can manage ballistic shots, this is the greatest damage output in the game, I'm pretty sure. It's, like, Ballistic Archer is a very fantastic, of these options, it's the one that is used the most, I think. And it just works. The reason I would say that stands out is it takes what makes the Archer interesting and good, and it exemplifies that to the extreme. It takes that to its logical extreme. So that's what makes the Ballistic Archer good. The next best, I think, would be pizza delivery with the magical pizzas, like chakrams. So this takes it in a completely different direction. The knight has a stable attack, and the pizza delivery gives them an unstable attack. It takes, instead of exemplifying a theme, it switches it up. We go from a character with a leverage, and then forcing our way to make that the most extreme leverage possible, to taking a character without a leverage, or with just rounded balance being its leverage, and instead of making it more balanced, just giving it strange little opportunities. The ability to kick off your pizzas, the ability to use pseudo range to like do spin attack sort of thing. And this is kind of successful almost because the pizza itself is an awesome weapon. This is the other thing where instead of like leveraging the strength and just going extreme with it, pizza is just a cool weapon. So I will state that cool weapons always make it in. Cool weapons always make it in. So, as for the other three. So I want to state that the difference between the awesomeness of the Ballistic Archer and the coolness of the pizza delivery, everything else is like, those are both A tier. We didn't get all the way down to like C or D tier with the rest of these. So the other three kind of just need help. In Kindle Boxer, I want to talk about, I actually really appreciate in Kindle Boxer as a concept. I feel like it's not working out as it should. Like there's some numbers that need to be changed. Maybe the explosions need to be smaller. But basically, the issue with the Boxer was always that you have to get close range. You have an attack that doesn't do much knockback, and you have to rely on your talent as your way to really knock back enemies. Then we switch it around. The Kindle Boxer, suddenly your attacks are long range. They're doing a lot of knockback. If you can get someone in a corner, you can just knock them in the corner. And instead you're relying on your talent to protect you if they get too close. Because if you use your weapon when they're too close, you injure yourself. So, in Kindle Boxer is technically, it's taking the dynamic of the class and altering it. It's from one dynamic to another. I think my main issue with Kindle Boxer is they still don't have any combo potential. The fact that they lose such a crucial element, knockout punches are supposed to be the knockout ability. They scale off of the higher your knockout is, like, the KO punch scales significantly. So where I think it scales by like 3% for every KO stack, for knockouts, it scales by like 35% or something huge. So having known KO just turns that knockback into just your melee attack, which, I don't know, the whole issue with the Kindle Boxer is that relying on their KO punch as their close range, like if you miss and they still have close range, you're out of luck. There's a lot of the main issue with the Kindle Boxer is that the weapon is too awkward, is basically to say it. There are too many times where you're in close corridors, you're going down a small corridor and there's enemies there, and there are 0 places you can stand on the left wall, shoot to the right, and still nearly get yourself hit. In Kindle Boxer is a cool idea, but it just did not pan out just because of the design of the layouts of the rooms. So I want to state, because I really like the design, they took the mechanics of it and turned it on their head. From close range with a way to make it long range, to long range with an answer for close range. and they didn't. All they did is they changed the weapon, which I think was super cool. So I want to keep that in mind as the design, because while the design failed a bit, I think this is actually a really cool one. Next is Stoic Waiter. So what this does is it turns your pan that knocks away projectiles and deals fire damage into a ladle that is a ranged weapon that also inflicts Spore Burst. I like this a lot, but not for Chef. So I'm going to get into this more, but a lot of this is just kind of lore. They had the ladle as the base weapon when they first made the game, and they wanted to use it, and adding the poison damage was a cool way of using it, and making it still distinct. I like how it kept it distinct, but here's the main theme. It's not really... like, chefs aren't really built to be ranged characters. The projectile shot is like their special effect. They have to get mana in, like, one of the main issues with Chef, we'll get into a bit, but basically the ladle, while it's cool lore-wise, and it's a pretty cool weapon, Chef was not where it goes. I actually believe that while it doesn't really work being a ladle, the sort of style of weapon works better for Archmage, and I'm going to get to that once I finish talking about the weapons, because now we get to the F tier weapon. Furious Fighter, the ability to... this one, when you attack, you just start spinning and you don't stop spinning. It's basically the air attack ad infinitum, but it deals less damage, and it doesn't give you much mana. It does give you mana, I will state that, but it's 2 mana per hit, and it's just... when you compare it to something like Fighter, or like Knight, you just don't get enough mana. Like, one of the main things is you want to do Flame Barrier plus this to just spin to win, deal all the damage. And it just doesn't, you can't keep the Flame Barrier up. It doesn't give you enough mana. And then for damage, it's 2/3 of the damage of the regular spin attack, which by all means the spin attack was great, but it also has 0 knockback. And you also move slower. Now the move slower is kind of taken care of with the dashing and stuff, but the Furious Fighter just, it has a lot of... they want to stop it from getting too powerful, and they made it horribly weak. This spin attack is just worse than just the Fighter's Axe. I would rather have the Fighter's Axe 9 times out of 10. I'm pretty sure like the one place where this is more useful is if you're like trying to clear spikes and thorns and stuff, and you can't go airborne. You have to stay on the ground, which I'm not sure how many times that happens. So Furious Fighter is just like, the problem is the weakness. So let's talk about the ones that were successful to see how we can leverage this. So the 2 that I like to bring up is one that is taking the strengths and just leveraging those strengths into the nth degree, making them extreme strengths. Another is taking the style of gameplay and altering how it plays. So changing from the talent being protective to changing from the talent being the offense to the talent being the defense. Now the Barbarian, because you have to take damage for its talent to recharge, it doesn't really have space to do the altering, so it needs to either go into the extreme or it needs to alter. And here's a third option. This one has not been shown, but this is the option I kind of want to talk about. So Barbarians are probably the only class who really can't get much mana. Their ground attacks are the only way to get mana. They have one of the slowest attacks. Yeah, they have one of the slowest attacks. It only gains mana if they're on the ground, and yeah, that just makes it really hard to get mana gain. So what happens if you have a Barbarian and you decided you go Intelligence build? What I would love is for you to have a weapon that can actually leverage the fact that you're an Intelligence build. If we could replace if we can make this spin to win, it's some way regenerate your mana extremely quickly. Something like instead of getting 2 mana per hit, it gains 5 mana per hit. Suddenly we can have Furious Fighter Intelligence build. Like this would be like an Eldritch Knight. This is your way of, you spin, you're not really relying on your hammer for damage. You're not really relying on your hammer for knockback. You're relying on it to get you your mana to do your spells. I know that's not where people expect to go, but what that does is it allows you to make the Barbarian useful, even if you're doing Intelligence builds. Because let me tell you, I love the Barbarian, but I also love increasing my Intelligence instead of my Strength, as just like the style. And it makes Barbarians really hard to play, because you spend 2 spells and then you're out, and it takes a lot of work to get yourself back. because your attacks are slow, and if you're facing an airborne enemy, well, I guess I'm not getting mana. This solves that problem, but it doesn't solve it well enough. It's only 2 mana per hit. It's just such slow regeneration. So I would just love if I would say with Furious Fighter, instead of increasing its damage, instead of increasing its speed, instead of increasing its knockback, I would give it 5 mana regeneration instead of 2. That alone will probably make it so that the Furious Fighter could be idea that you put that on when you have a really good spell, when you have a Flame Barrier, when you have a Blaze Bell, when you have a way to deal damage with your spell and you can reliably use it. Furious Fighter becomes the option you switch to when you want to rely on your spell instead of your weapon. I think that's how the Barbarian should be used. So with Stoic Waiter, I was bringing up that this was kind of with the where the Archmage should be. So the Archmage has a lot of mana for its spells, but it's from the Mana Leech effect, and sometimes you mana leech way too much mana to ever be able to spend. Sometimes you have a 5-second cooldown on Wind Wall, then you have a 5-second cooldown on Shockwave. Sometimes you just don't have spells that can exhaust your mana. Like I will tell you, with this build I have right now, this I can only use every 5 seconds. I'm probably not going to spend it. And as long as I keep Mana Leech on, I will never burn through. Mana Leech regenerates mana faster than Blaze Bellow can eat it up. So as long as I keep Mana Leech on, these two will never allow me to go below my 200 mana. I'll never go below 100 mana. Like, I can't really exhaust my mana as a mage and rely on my strength. Which leads to the other issue, that's, the mage... So one way you can do that is to use this ladle effect, where suddenly your weapon, instead of being a way to get back your mana, your weapon is a weapon. It applies Spore Burst. That's a powerful effect to deal damage. It's awkward, much as mages already are, but it's effective. Maybe instead of being a spoon, the weapon could be rephrased as like a cursed book, as like a book, and you're throwing like a scroll at them, like you're ripping out pages and throwing it at them or something. I don't know. And I don't think that's actually the best way to do it. No. I think that unfortunately this Stoic Waiter theme, I think the Waiter Ladle is just going to be a part of the chef, because just they have all the mechanics in there. They need to change the mechanics. So Archmage does have the issue that it is, if you're doing a strength, like if you're doing a intelligence build with Barbarian, you can't really use the Barbarian. I have a feeling that if you have the strength build with Archmage, you can't really use Archmage, and you probably can't really use Chef either. So that's where I'm going to guess that these need the changes. Instead of what that would have to do is, instead of the Ladle applying Spore Burst, the Ladle would just have to deal a lot more damage. It would be basically this awkward option of, I don't use spells. I did not build my character. I do not build my playstyle around using spells. So I need a really heavy spoon. I just need to whack people with it. I know it's awkward, but it makes the class playable for me because I can't use spells. I think that's where the talent for chefs and archmages need to go. So literally, and this is such a weird thing, people probably will disagree heavily with this, but I think the answer is to make just with this ladle, I would give it to both archmage and chef probably, and I would have it, instead of Spore Burst applied, I would like double or triple its damage. I would just make it a very powerful attack that you just rely on. If you could get that arc, you could just wreck enemies that you hit with it. Again, really weird. In Kindle Boxer, as I said, it's just really the narrow corridors. They need another option. Like, they used to have the uppercut. I would just have some way... if you could somehow maintain the uppercut in Kindle Boxer, that would fix everything. Just you hold up and attack, and instead of throwing a bomb at your face, you uppercut, and it doesn't explode. And, like, that knocks them away. Like, if the explosions were replacing the combo, and you just still had uppercut, I think in Kindle Boxer could work. That's all that needs to be done. It still maintains the idea. So, with that, I think that would be how I would fix each of them. And again, pizza delivery is great. Ballistic Archer is absolutely amazing, so those don't really need to be touched. So now it's just like, how do I change the others? So let's talk about the other classes. Valkyrie is another well-rounded class, much like the Knight. So one of its themes is it has multi-directional attacks. I almost feel like the Valkyrie could get the same theme as Spin to Win Barbarians. Like the way, if Mage and Chef get the same theme, Valkyries and Barbarians could probably get the same theme. And, I'm not so sure. So here's the thing. It's well-rounded, which means, like, the Knight, the answer is to do something wacky and fun. Maybe the way that the Knight gets the Chakram. What could this get? The Blade Wall? I have no idea. Just, basically this, I think the Valkyrie has a space for something wacky and fun. The Dance Hall. The Duelist is a very combo-oriented character, like you're trying to get many quick attacks. So I actually brought this up, back in Far Shores as an idea of a character that, basically, their base attack, so their base attack has is a lot of damage, but has a cooldown. The cooldown refreshes when you use your talent, and then your talent refreshes when you get your attack. So you basically have to attack, then you use your... The idea was it was attack, then teleport. Yeah, attack refreshes teleport, teleport refreshes attack. So you have to kind of attack, teleport, attack, teleport, attack, teleport. And if you could do that with the roll, if you could do it where you have... Basically build that character, build the shinobi that I was thinking about back then. You just make your heavy attack, then you roll behind them. You make your heavy attack, you roll behind them, and if you ever miss... I would have the weapon have an additional trait that it doubles the cooldown of... It basically gives you chronic fatigue syndrome, that it doubles the cooldown of things. That way you're kind of reliant on using... you would be reliant on actually landing your hits, and if you miss your hits, you kind of have to run until your fatigue syndrome leaves. There is also the problem that if they allow animation canceling, you could, like, attack roll, and then while you're, like, right as you start the roll animation, attack again, then right as the attack hits, you start the roll animation, and you could just get and cause people to explode. That was an issue before with Duelist, so that could be an issue again. So that is one issue that the Duelist would face, but I would absolutely love if they can build just a huge arcing swing attack, but the weakness is you're forced to get chronic fatigue syndrome if you take it, and because of it, it has a 5-second cooldown, but it resets your talent. I would love that to be an item. It resets your talent and resets when a talent is used. Then again, that's like also scary, because if it's a fabled weapon that's available for all, resets chefs eating food, like that, I have a feeling that could break things. I love the idea, but I feel like I'm not thinking through it well enough. There are some consequences to that, but I just love the idea. I don't want to abandon it. So then, let's see, what classes do we have left? We have Gunslinger. The obvious is instead of reloading that large 24-round clip, you reload like a shotgun. You basically have just a close-range burst, and maybe it has 1 or 2 hits. So it changes the dynamic from reloading and then trying to fire before they get close, to you get close, blast them away, and then reload before they come back to you. Which I think that would be a fun way to do it. So if they can just like build a double-barrel shotgun and just like spinning around a full-on shotgun would also be pretty funny. Maybe it's a cannon or something like that, but I love the idea of that for 4 shots of 6 pellets. No, I'd actually go 2 shots. I'd go a double-barreled shotgun. I want a close range, boom. So instead of trying to keep your distance and shoot, the dynamic change is you're shooting them so that you knock them away so that you could then get your own distance. So instead of always trying to keep a distance, you're trying to close the gap at certain intervals, is the idea. Oh, 4 shots of 6 pellets. Or, yeah, 2 shots of 12 pellets is another way of saying it. Yeah, I think 2 shots of 12 pellets is a better way of saying it. I would have it be really close and just be kind of a different weapon, because you could fire. It takes a long time to shoot your 24 shots. This would just be, you get in, boom, boom, and now you're done. Now you're done and you have to reload again. These are just highly explosive, fast shots. That's how I would do Gunslinger class. That's just changing the dynamic of the class, keeping the flavor. Alright. Assassin. So this one's a little hard, because the class is built on critical hits. So either I think we kind of have to leverage into critical hits. If we want to say that we're an intelligence-based build, they still gain mana fast enough, so that's not even an issue. So we'd have to just lean deeper into critical hits. So instead of like dual blades, I'm picturing just like the tiny dagger. And the tiny dagger is basically the knight's... The tiny dagger would just basically be the knight's sword, except stunted, and always gets critical hits. That's all I could think of. That's all I could think of. So it'd just be a little dagger that shanks people, and always crits as if it was a knight. Have to have a very small hitbox, be very scary to use. But that's all I can think of for the assassin. And obviously, again, these are all my stupid ideas. I'm not sure if I said that clearly, that these are all stupid ideas. I do not expect all of them to be implemented. I expect people to have better ideas than I have, but... Alright. Then Dragon Lancers. Let's see. So their main theme is mobility. So I would actually have their special basically turn them into dragons back in Rogue Legacy 1, where they have this fireball that has like a 1 or 2 second cooldown, and they just shoot it, and basically when you switch that theme, you lose the ability to jump and gain the ability to fly. So they have that very limiting attack, but they have the ability to fly. So they just suddenly ultimate mobility and the ultimate issue of very precise on your attacks. I would literally have the ultimate Dragon Lancers become half dragons. And of course, we don't know what the future class unlock 1 or the future class unlock 2 are going to be. We think one of them's a Lich, and I have a bet that the poison mechanic is going to be a huge part of the Lich. That is all I know. Unfortunately, we cannot assume anything. So that's it. That's my talk on Fabled weapons. I do love the idea of Fabled weapons, but a lot of them did not pan out well. Oh, also really quick, while we're talking about soul shops right over here, next preferential treatment where you can choose your class for the rightmost character, I would love a preferential knowledge just below it, where I can choose my favorite spell, so I can actually get myself my mages with wind walls, because I love my mages with wind walls. I can also get my knights with flame barriers. I could get things of that nature. I'd love to be able to, in addition to preferential treatments the class, I like to preferential treatment the spell as well. That's just a little tangent. Thank you for listening. I'm done. Thank you. Alright, so as for these traits, yeah, I think I love the idea of the Fabled weapons, but they just need those little tweaks. And if this is it, that's okay. I recognize Fabled weapons are a huge addition. It's basically another weapon. It's basically another class without adding all the dynamics of the class. I understand that's like additional work that doesn't need to be there, so I'm okay if there's no changes. I'm honestly okay if the change is we're removing Fabled weapons. Like, I'm okay with that, whether or not other people are. It definitely sucks to lose the content, but I guess that's why we could lock them away in the soul shop. Anyways, thank you for watching. I'd love to hear your inputs. I do like the idea of Fabled weapons, but a lot of them need to be, like, more considerate of the class. Like, I feel like a lot of these were... I think these two were based off Full Metal Furies specifically, so they were keeping the flavor of the Full Metal Furies instead of considering the balance. This was part of, like, when they were first, like, analyzing, like, alpha tests. They brought up the ladle, so it's like, we're just reusing old assets. Pizza delivery was fun. I love the fun. Like, yeah. Anyways, I think that's it for me. Thank you all for watching. Please leave your comments. I'd love to hear your comments. I'd love to reply. I'd love to hear your ideas. Anyways, I hope you all have a wonderful day.